We're going to get started. Again, just a reminder that your microphones are muted and you can unmute them when Rick says he's going to open it for question and answer. If you have a question during his presentation, you can type it in the chat window that will appear on the right-hand side of your screen. And with that, Rick King is going to tell us about redirecting your mission during a pandemic, which is what they've done there at Chosen, and he'll tell us how that came about and what they're doing with it. So Rick, we'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks a lot. Welcome everybody to this hour that we'll spend together, and hopefully it'll be something that will bless you and your ministry as we kind of work through this. I think that we definitely want to start off with a word of prayer, so join me with that, please. Father, as we gather at this moment, allow us to be focused on how you are at work with ministries and how you have been at work so diligently with Chosen, as we have kind of in the midst of craziness found solid ground and moved forward on that. So Father, let these words be a blessing to all. We ask in a gracious name, amen. I'm going to start with a video. It talks a little bit about it, and I'm going to expound upon it some. What's started, you know, we all faced March 15th, basically, as I look at things, March 15th of 2020, when the world seemed to come to a dead halt. And many like us, you know, all of a sudden started to think about, oh no, now what? How do we do this? And none of us, more likely at all, would have figured out that, you know, over a year later, we're still kind of dealing with the effects. You know, they haven't really gone away. They've been modified, changed. You know, I tell people it's, you know, what happens today doesn't necessarily mean what's going to happen tomorrow, because again, there just seems to be this constant unknown of this season that we're in right now. But, you know, we were a ministry, we're 52 years old. And our first 45 years of ministry was strictly doing large medical equipment around the world, sterilizers, surgical tables, surgical lights. And I've always told people we do just about anything in between there. We had connections with many other ministries that would allow us to, you know, if you needed a ultrasound, we could go find an ultrasound. If you needed something, you know, of that nature, we could do it because we were connected. And sometimes that connection was through tech members, other times it was not. And in 2014, we started to feel a little like we needed to start diversifying ourselves. And we took over another small ministry that was a tech member at the time, and which was called International Medical Assistance. And we absorbed them into our ministry and started to do short-term trips to Mexico. And in 2019, when we celebrated our 50th anniversary, we had made a commitment to really start really focusing on what we felt God wanted us to do on these mission trips, and how do we grow them from just doing 10 a year to how can we even get to doing 30 a year, because we saw the possibility of that. We also were doing, had started to dabble a little bit locally into the home durable health goods, like wheelchairs, potty chairs, even hospital beds and things like that, to our local community, which was starting to really grow from, you know, 25 pieces a month to nowadays that we're doing, you know, 400 to 500 pieces a month. So it was growing on us. And then March 2020 hits. We'd had three trips under our belt, mission trips under our belt as of that point, and a lot on the schedule, and then the world stopped. And we had to make some decisions about what to do. So I'm going to show you this video. Hopefully it works. I'm not done it myself this way, but I'll share my screen. And hopefully this will work. And then it's only 1 minute and 30 seconds long, so it's not very long. And then I want to expound upon it a little bit, and then we'll go from there. So it says I can share my screen here, right here. So I double click, there it goes. Oops, sorry, stopped it. Hey, Jenny, can you unmute yourself?
Yes.
You know how I do sound, so the sound comes through?
I practiced this last night with Mark Sachs, and there was something on his screen that showed a muted speaker, and he had to click it to unmute his, he showed an actual video and it worked, but he had to, there was something on his screen that he unmuted. Do you see a?
Yeah, it doesn't show anything muted unless there's something else I'm supposed to be looking at. I'm not as familiar with using Zoom.
Yeah, I wasn't either, and nor was he. And when he first did it, like I said, there was no sound. Then he said, oh, here it is. And he clicked it, and then the sound came through on his video.
On the very top of my screen, it says view options, and you can turn the microphone on. Do you have that too, Rick?
Yeah, I've got the, it shows the microphone, it's unmuted.
This is a different one. For me, it's on the very top. It says your view and Rick's screen. And then to the right of that, it says view options. And
yeah, it says more. It says record meeting info, disable, hide names, hide video panel, share
yeah,
sound.
mine's not saying anything.
Let me try that. Let me try that. All right. All right, let's try this now.
We are Chosen, a local and international ministry based in Erie, Pennsylvania, perhaps better known around the world for refurbishing and delivering medical equipment, tools which have been placed in over 110 countries since we began in 1969. But we don't stop there. Additionally, we provide medical and non-medical short-term mission trip opportunities abroad. In our local community, we serve as a warehouse and distribution center. Here we collect, repair, and redistribute home healthcare items such as wheelchairs and walkers to the local community in need. In March of 2020, the world seemingly came to a halt. Within weeks, all 15 planned mission trips were canceled. International shipping and installation of equipment became less of a reality as borders closed. In pivotal times when nothing seems to be going as planned, we look to the gospel. In the book of Matthew, Jesus took a few loaves and fish and after giving thanks, distributed them to a group of 5,000 followers. They were miraculously filled and satisfied. We realize that God is telling us that the local community needs our help now more than ever. Just like the 5,000 who are hungry and in need of teaching, the residents of the tri-state region are in deep need of assistance. At no moment do we stop operation despite the pandemic. We built ramps for home accessibility, served many people in the community, and distributed home healthcare items to many people in need. We are looking at a few loaves and fish, knowing that we just need to keep breaking the bread and passing it around. We can assure everyone is served, but now, more than ever, we could use your help by donating medical equipment, volunteering your time and talents with ramp builds and in our healthcare ministry, and the largest way you can help is through financial support. Thank you.
All right, I gotta go back to not sharing my screen now, I guess.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's panel about the health
Yep,
and wellness industry post-COVID.
Trying to get rid of that. There we go. All right, let's see. Now I lost everybody too. I lost everybody. Hold on. I don't know what happened here.
We have you.
Yeah, I just lost there. For some reason, I lost everybody on the screen. So
We're hearing you, Rick, so.
I don't know where it went. No, I don't want to leave me. Okay, anyhow, so there's definitely no doubt in that video that it was very important to me that I started to look in my prayer life, like hopefully we all did, on what God was trying to do here with this whole pandemic thing and us, and what he was asking out of us. And so in the midst of this is when we were actually developing 4 videos. And when we talked about this one here we go. When we talked about this and how feeling that God wanted us to do something different, it was in my devotional life that one morning that I was listening to a preacher teaching on Matthew 14, and his point was, when we read that story of the feeding of the 5,000, the unique thing about it that we need to remember that the disciples were looking at what was just in front of them, in a sense of they could just see, as we do so often in our human perspective. All they could see was that they had the loaves of bread and the fish. That's all they could see. They couldn't see the bigger picture because they had Jesus right there and what Jesus could do. And so that started to weigh on me in a sense, and challenged me to think about where we're at, and to quit looking at what we may be losing, what we just had in front of us, but where could we take what we had, and with Jesus's help, change who we are. And that just started the whole process of looking at where we were to put the energy, where we were going to be focusing, in a sense, as the months grew on. Now again, we haven't given up the large equipment side of us. It's still there. People are still getting that equipment off of us. But the biggest focus of our ministry at the time of March of 2020 was these mission trips. And we felt like God was saying to us, at least at that moment, that none of this had caught him off guard. He had been preparing us for this, and that what we had to do now was to step into it. And even today, even a year later, there are board members that still somewhat struggle a little bit with the change, because we don't like change. We're people that like things to be predictable, calm. Sometimes we really don't like the dirty challenges of life. And ministries in the midst that we've been in over the last year of trying to figure out where are you going to get funding, where is all this going to do, we decided just to step into it and see what God would do with it. And for us, at least, it's been an amazing journey of what God has done as we've invested into really just allowing God to do what he wants to do. Now, again, I'm not saying no ministry doesn't do that, but we were focused on looking at and saying that we're not afraid. We weren't afraid to change if that's what he wanted, if that's what he needed out of us. So we didn't even dream in the sense of where he has taken us as we hit 2021. When we got to January 2021 and we realized that we could possibly try, we had one group of medical people that wanted to go to Mexico and give it a try. We didn't know that prior to that, as we sent Randy back down there to prepare for this trip, that God had another whole plan in already taking place for us in the town of Valladolid. And lo and behold, we have now, in the midst of all this still change in our lives, added on to being that we have actually put into place a satellite office, a satellite of us in Valladolid, Mexico, with a building and everything, to where we are in the process of working with the local churches, building partnerships to where we will be handing out home health care goods in the area of the Yucatan, like we do here in Erie. In the midst of that, God brought on to us a university here in Erie through a professor that was looking to get involved in the home health care end of things, because she's a physical therapist and she wanted to be able to get involved in the community. And so that has brought new dimensions to where our building now is being utilized in ways that we never dreamed. We're getting ready to make a big shift in our building to where our building will be used strictly just for home health care, and we'll have another building possibly that will be doing the other side of us out of, because God is bringing into our midst doing clinics out of our building for the underserved people that need maybe a little more physical therapy, and the insurance companies are done with that, or they need a little more training with their piece of equipment that they've been assigned to do. This was not at all on our radar a year ago. This was not where we ever thought we would ever go, to really start focusing so much on our domestic family, our domestic neighbor. For 40, almost 50 years, I'll say, we have been dominantly focused on international, with a little bit of mixing or a little bit of seasoning in our local area. But this pandemic has made us open our eyes up to a need that wasn't being met in our own local community, and how that has just radically changed who and where we're going in the future this way. So it's challenging. I won't deny that. It's time demanding. It's making us think so much differently than we've ever thought before. And like I expressed just a few minutes ago, it's even challenging some of our board members who are our old timers, in a sense, to embrace the change. But God has put many things in place, even funding into place that we didn't even ask for, that he brought into our building, that is helping us fund a biggest majority of this. in the midst of this, he's brought new possible partnerships in place. So it's been a unique change for us as we again allow this season we're in to refocus our thoughts and to realize that there's sometimes you've got to allow yourself to see beyond what's just right in your hand. And that's how I took that story of the feeding of the 5,000, because again, you know, we've all heard it. We've all been in church. We all know that story quite well. But it wasn't like Jesus summoned 12 semi-loads of bread and fish to pull up to that group. I believe his challenge was to the disciples that day was just to start handing it out. And by handing it out, the miracle would happen. And so that's how we started to embrace what we were doing. That we couldn't understand or could we rationalize what was happening. But our point was, could we just start handing it out? Could we start distributing what we did have and then trust that in some miraculous way, God would multiply that. And that's what he's done. And he has, you know, continually afforded us the ability to do a deep dive into this change of who we are. We're looking forward to what the future holds as we continually to step into this future. It's the first time for a long time as the executive director of this ministry that I feel that we're on, that we're pointed in the right direction, that the challenge for us now would be to go down the road, to go down that path. And yeah, we're going to look different. We're going to have new challenges, but God has brought us to this point of change, and we are embracing it, and with the thought that this is good for the future. So you know, it's hard to do this because we're all in ministry and we all have our headaches and we all have our struggles and we all have this, and it's been the hardest thing for me to do, to even talk about it, because I have friends that are tech members, that are not tech members, that are connected to some kind of nonprofit work, and some have really struggled. Some have really struggled through this season, and some have had to close their doors, and some have had to, you know, and not that they didn't want to be, you know, there and available. You know, I don't understand, you know, I don't have the answer why God's doing what he's doing with Chosen right now. I can't answer that at all. But I will answer this, that we have, at least the staff, and has not been afraid to embrace change and realize what the challenges of that would be, to embrace those changes as we continue to look for ways to do ministry. And in all respects, when you look at who we are and what we are, we're still involved in the world of medical equipment. We've not lost that focus. God's just redirected it to where we were for the first 48 plus years of our ministry. Now, as we start to look into the next 10 years of our existence. So I'll answer any of your questions. If you have a comment or questions, I'll be happy to, you know, if I can, do that.
This is Dennis in Guatemala. I think, Rick, what you're going through probably as every ministry in tech has been forced to do some degree of change. Part of what we did with Vine International, some of the supply stream just died. Okay, we couldn't get masks and PPE down here. But so there was a shift to food from Orphan Grain Train. The work continued, but it changed. Part of what Vine has been very good about us is to allow us to minister in other ways. And one of that was preaching in the prisons. The prisons shut down. They wouldn't let any visitors in. So we looked at it and we were preaching every 2 weeks. I started writing out the lessons, getting them translated. We would pay a guard a little money and he would carry it in. So we moved the teachings from every 2 weeks to every 1 week. It necessitated somebody on the inside doing the teaching. So in this point of stress, leadership on the inside, like cream, rises to the top. So we've been blessed in ways that we, in our small finite minds, could not imagine. And in that stress, we've learned a lot of things. We found we could get it in for free because on the back border of the prison, there's a place where you can get internet reception. It's jammed everywhere else. But there's a guy who has a little concession stand back there and he can receive and send messages. He's got the 1 point. So it's probably illegal, but the message gets in, it gets distributed and changed. And we've done other things. We've put concrete floors in a house and a porch for a wheelchair fast. You know, some of the things that you've done. We're working in a place that's called a red zone. It's MS-13. You can't even get pizza delivered to the work team. You have to, somebody has to go out and get food to bring it in and stuff. We've been able to work in places that we wouldn't have done because God freed up time by changing what we're doing. And I agree with you. I don't know, and I can't define what's going on. All I know is there's a work to be done, and God will direct your mind, your heart, be in prayer about what your ministry is and what it is. And I think some ministries do close down, and some of those people go to other ministries, and God works. He cleans up places. He pushes us out. It goes all the way back to Jerusalem, brother. When the fat hit the fire and persecution came, people fled and the church grew. So in times of stress, I think God pushes us out to do things new and different. And praise the Lord, let's keep moving.
Yes, I mean, that's, you know, I mean, like I said, none of us like change, really. I mean, none of us like to change. We all love, I mean, it's just human nature, in general, human nature. We love things just to be like very predictable, like get up at 7, go to work at 8, this happens, that happens. But I do believe that in, at least in my years of ministry with this organization, that, you know, what I've been taught is that I gotta allow God the leadership. And that's hard for us because we still want to lead. We still want to lead because we might have ideas, or we think it should do this, or not that those aren't some even God-given ideas, but so oftentimes, you know, we do get, as they say, stuck in the mud. And you know, this is the way I've done it for 22 years, and we're not moving from here, or we're not going to change. because this is, you know, this is where we started. This is what we've done, and we're not going to change. And by golly, you know, I don't care if we have to close the doors. I'm not changing. You know, that's not been where, at least as the, you know, the executive director of this ministry, that I have felt God. He has taken us on a journey, and he continues to take us on a journey to be, you know, in a sense. But with it, I guess what I'm trying to get to with it, though, are challenges, are decisions that have to be made. That, again, it would be easy not to go down that road because you wouldn't have to make those decisions. You wouldn't have to do those things. I mean, you know, we're in the midst, even right now. Again, we had to hire 2 people at the beginning of the year. We're in the midst now of talking of hiring another person. I mean, to me, that's crazy and scary. You know, that we're growing, you know, in a way that's demanding our time in ways that we can't divide ourselves up enough to make that happen. You know, we're like I said, we're looking at, you know, the expansion into another building, which Chosen in 52 years has never looked at and never had to do. We were always able to adapt this building, but the growth of the ministry that God has brought forth to us, we're busting the seams, and it's making us look at, you know, what are we doing here? What's our purpose? So Rick raised his hand. You have to unmute, Rick.
There we go. All right, I hit the wrong mute button. Yeah, you know, it's an encouraging thing, and you're right, Rick. We don't like change, but I learned a long time ago, the military helps you with this, that you have to deal with change. And quite frankly, as I look at all this, and it's been very frustrating the last 2 years, year and a half, but I see so many positive things. And Dennis, he left, but he mentioned one of the things that I think is actually good, and in one of his comments was that we're seeing in a lot of ministries and a lot of places where those of us who, the short-termers or long-termers, where the short-termers that go over, not going over has resulted in the local church, the local ministries, the nationals picking up those responsibilities. You'd mentioned that, Dennis. I've been hearing a lot of positive stories. So we don't like to change. And I don't like being kind of taken out of the picture where I used to be more involved. However, I see the positive things. That same thing, though, has also kind of been brought shame to me in that I've resisted over the years training and spending more time training nationals to do the work instead of doing the work for them. And now I wish, in the emphasis in the future going down the road, whenever we get to the field, is going to be an emphasis on training nationals. So if I would have done a better job this historically, I wouldn't be so concerned about the fact that I'm not there doing the job that they could be doing now. The other thing, just the other comment I was going to make, and you kind of mentioned this, Rick, and this is what you guys are doing. One of the things that God has kind of showed us, and I've been encouraged about, is that in my Acts 1:8, in my focus on the uttermost parts of the earth, we have neglected Jerusalem. And there's no excuse for that. We should all be doing that. But now, because I can't go to the uttermost parts of the earth, we are focusing more on Jerusalem and trying to build relationships right in our neighborhood and minister there, like you guys are doing with your whole ministry. One quick last thing to Belinda, you had asked a question. Yeah, Joe and I, as a matter of fact, there he is, he's on here. Joe and I have been busy the last multiple days going through an abundance of hoops and going through a lot of hassle trying to get to Nigeria in about a week and a half. And I want to tell you, it's the biggest pain I've ever had trying to get out of this country to another one. So to answer your question, you can get there, but it is not easy. And just the logistics getting visa approvals, and the requirements on all the travel where you have to time it just perfectly, getting negative COVID tests and all the rest to travel. It's very frustrating, and I don't know, if it's going to get any better in the future. If any of you have a crystal ball or know what it's going to be like down the road, I tell you, this is a frustrating process, but it can be done, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I do know people are traveling because we've had to send parts to places in Africa, and I've sent them to people here in the US who are taking them. So I know it's happening. But again, like Rick is saying, I'm not sure what hoops or what things they've had to go through to get to that point, that way. I know Chosen's got a couple requests, about, sterilizers and installs and things like that in places. I know that the one gentleman that I've talked to lately in Ecuador, which is in Africa, but Ecuador, wants to get a sterilizer plus install. And his comment was, if you don't have the vaccine, you have to quarantine 2 weeks when you enter the country before you get to do anything. So those are issues, and then we learned with our first team that we did with our partners, FMSL, CMSL in Mexico, that, we had to have the COVID test to get our participants out of the country. And, working that into the schedule and things like that, which went is as best as I can say, pretty seamless and worked. But in the midst of that, being a ministry that does send people out, we had to work into our protocols a COVID protocol, so that if you did test positive, what would happen, and how that would look for your time of sickness or your quarantine time there. And again, it's created us to have to look at protocols and things like that also.
What if you've been vaccinated? Is that still an issue? You have to quarantine if you can show that you've been vaccinated?
Not at least going to Ecuador. If you've been vaccinated, that's what you need to show. Now, I don't think, I've not heard any other country, in a sense that I've had any connection with, that kind of looks at that vaccine yet as a kind of a pass. If hopefully someday, my hope would be someday that if you've had the vaccine, and that you wouldn't have to get the COVID test to come back into the country or to leave the country or whatever. But that's why I say it's like shifting sands every day. Now it's calmed down a little bit, but at one point you didn't know. I mean, we live very close to the Canadian border, and I just talked to a gentleman yesterday that is in Ontario, and he's still today for a year now, they are still in lockdown. They're in total lockdown. Mm-hmm. And he was sharing with me that he drives around with food in his car. So if he gets pulled over, he can say he's an essential worker, but you can't, the Rainbow Bridge, the Peace Bridge, they're still shut down unless you're essential. It's really spooky to go up there. I was just up there a few weeks ago and see these bridges empty when they were always just packed with vehicles. So there's still this hurdle of, like Rick explained, of just trying to leave this country or get, now it's happening. You can go to Mexico and go to Cancun and all that pretty easily. I mean, there are countries you can fly into and out of really easily in some respects. But there are still massive hotspots around this world that we want to go to, but still has some restrictions in place that way.
Belinda, in Nigeria anyway, with all the hoops and all the things we have to fill out and tell, one of the things that they don't ask about is the vaccine. So I don't know about other countries, but they could care less about the vaccine as far as we know. And Joe and I have to do a week quarantine there. Now, it's kind of a don't ask, don't tell. We're assuming that nobody's going to ask, nobody's going to tell, but we will be able to do work and do things that first week. Otherwise, that's, complete waste of time. But what that exactly looks like, we don't know yet, and they're not saying because I don't know how close they're going to follow that. But there's nothing asked at all about vaccine.
Somebody asked, yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say China has, if you travel through Beijing and you want to go to another country, you have to have the China vaccine. My kids are there, so I know.
One of the
Hey,
things,
Rick,
yeah.
can you also, at some point, can you address Barry's question about liability and?
I was just going to get to that. That's exactly where I was going. Yeah, Chosen's always had to have, let me look at that so I say it right. Chosen's always had to carry liability insurance. We have had it because of the equipment that we send around the world, even though, as our insurance carrier would say, they can't imagine somebody in Nigeria or Niger, because they would have to travel to the US to sue us or something to that nature if something happened. But liability insurance has, like anything else, skyrocketed. And our new policy is costing us almost $16,000 for the year for this general liability. And that covers us with the home health care, that covers us with all of that. Yeah, I wouldn't, so that's not a new thing for us. What's new for us is the cost of the liability. Now, I shared the thing about to go on with your therapy training, etc. The university, Gannon University, who wants to partner with us, we have to be able to put them on our general liability insurance, name them, and so that's a part of it too. And we had to meet their requirement of having $5 million for that, which we did. They're the professionals. They would be the ones, they're certified professors who are certified therapy technicians. They're the ones that would be doing the training and things like that. We're just the building and their partner. So, Chosen itself isn't necessarily the one providing the services and things of that nature. We have, people understand when they receive this, especially the home health care equipment, they're receiving it, as a gift in a sense. There's no money charged. There's nothing, nothing like that attached. We've talked many times, even in just a few months ago, documentation, how much documentation do you want to get into to have them sign or things like that. Sometimes you can open up a massive hole when you start down that road of other issues. But it is a concern. So I would recommend, in anything that, you make sure you're checking with your legal people, that you're staying true to your, to protect yourself that way. Like I said, it's gotten a little costly on us, but like for instance, when we do the short-term trips, we didn't do this in the beginning, but eventually we started using Gallagher. Of course, I'll give a little promo there to Gallagher. We get malpractice insurance for all doctors. We get all travel insurance for all participants. that's a no-brainer. Again, we're trying to protect not only the participant, but the organizations that they're involved with at the same time. So it's very important, that part. I think your general liability and all that should be there to protect what, and shift. That's the important, shift with your changes of what you're doing that way, making sure you're staying up on those. So, the crazy thing is when we talk about Chosen, our insurance people kept using the word reman, that we were remanufacturing. We may have done that 10 to 12 years ago. Even maybe as long as 15 years ago, we might have been remanufacturing. But for the last 7 to 8 years, all our surgical tables, all our surgical lights are spanking brand new. And we don't even reman a sterilizer. We build a sterilizer. We don't take the sterilizer as it comes in to our facility. We actually build one out of parts, a few older parts, but then we put a bunch of brand new parts on. So that started to change the whole conversation with our insurance people because of trying to get them to understand even what we did. And even in the sense of handing out medical equipment as we started to change and what we're doing, even in Valladolid with our satellite office, with equipment, all of this has continually challenged us to look at, are we getting coverage for exactly what we're doing? And so that's important too, that your insurance people understand as best as they can what your ministry really is about that way. Anybody have any other questions? Any comments?
Okay, this does not apply to me, and it's not my area of expertise, but just a thought. You probably have already all thought of this or done this. For the organizations that are used to dealing with countries where you cannot get into right now, maybe look at the countries where it is easier to get into, and then try to find organizations in the US or churches that are working with ministries there, and maybe just pick up new venues and new customers, new patients, new ministries, new ways to serve in different places. Maybe the Lord is trying to shift us and move us to different areas that we hadn't considered before.
That is true. And I think I want to go back to one thing Rick Wood said, that Chosen has dealt with, and it becomes an expensive adventure if you want to do it right. But it's something we are going to move forward with here, hopefully in the next year. And because we can't always be there to help that person with the sterilizer or something like that, and because the Rick Wood and the Joe can't always go either, we're looking at ways to produce quality training videos that could be on our website of how to change a door gasket, how to do this, how to do that. Not one just necessarily done by someone holding an iPhone or a Galaxy phone or something, but something that is of quality that can be used even by the Rick Wood or Joes of the world that could look on there and see how to do that. Because again, if anything has taught us this, that like Rick said, we used to be just, call your air travel agent, hey, or book online. I'm going to go to Ghana in 3 weeks, get my visa, and I'm gone. It's not that way right now. And I don't know how fast or how long it'll be before it becomes that easy again. So we have to think outside the box of how we can still help. because you take Chosen itself, Chosen is a ministry that has been in existence for 52 years. In a 10-year period that we did some looking back from 2010 to 2020, we put over 100 sterilizers out in the field. And that's a lot of pieces of machinery that we know that more likely aren't being maintained right. And who knows what the first 40 years that are out there. We haven't gone back that far, you know, but we know we've put hundreds of those pieces out there, and we know that, in fact, I know because I just got a call from one a couple months ago that are still using ones that were, you know, put out there 35 years ago, and they're still using it. It doesn't look very good, but they're using it. So, you know, I mean, so this is where we're going to try to invest into that side of us so that the equipment that we've put out there can still be maintained as well as it can be. So again, thinking outside those boxes is important right now for us as administrators.
That's a great plug for tomorrow's workshop. Dr. Jonathan Spend from iTech is going to present his on transferring our skills to acquire independence and sustainability and to minimize the potential for dependency on those whom we're serving. And I think Rick Wood alluded to it earlier, the importance of training. And as you said, Rick, training them to do it themselves. And so he'll tell tomorrow a little bit about iTech's training programs and transferring of technology. So that'll be another good one to look into. Hopefully y'all will all come back for tomorrow. So
great to see all the faces. Great to see everybody that way.
Yep.
That way. Hey, Than, just a side note, Than, when you're off of here, can you give me a call?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
okay, it's great to see y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. And thanks for joining us this morning. And thanks, Rick. That was great.
Sure. All right, see you, everybody.
Bye.